can join us this panel. As I was saying, it's moderated by Alain Lozette, so join us in the stage. Thank you very much. We're just moving all the chairs and everything around. And maybe we can call all of your speakers. Here, okay, Julieta Lana, Anna Karsek, and Sara Pedrat, please, if you can join us in the stage and second panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to be here this morning to talk about digitalization.
Waiting for Sarah.
Digitalization is not new in healthcare, and especially in pharma. Like, I've been in the space for 10 years, and I mean, in pharma, for me, they're one of the first actors who've been active trying to do things. So either, like, you can say, improving, like using technologies to improve their internal processes, starting with startups. So we know that today, like most of the pharma companies, either have an innovation department or, and I think pharma have also been rethinking the way they interact with patients, not viewing that beyond the pills. I know that some people don't like that term, but I think it translates what it's not just about the pill, it goes beyond, maybe more holistic view of the patient, the consumers. Topic that we're going to discuss today in this panel. So it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Lucas, that you have just met before. Then we got Anna Karasek, Direct Solution Consulting at Viva Systems. Sara Pedras, Innovation Lead at GS, and Julieta Dana, Account Executive at WeFight. So I will ask you to introduce yourself for minutes. Julieta, do you want to start?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well with my micro? It's okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so I am Julieta. I am responsible for business fight. WeFight is a digital health startup. We develop solutions, virtual companion called VIC, patients suffering from chronic diseases or cancer, in order to improve their patient journey. In order to improve, this is the main objective. But we are also health data providers of patient data providers. Thank
Sarah?
you.
Thank you so much, Aline, and thank you for the BHA for this invitation. Innovation Lead at GSK, the British biopharma, and my role basically consists on helping the company to evolve from a cultural and also from a business point of view. We are focused on vaccines, on respiratory and specialty oncohematology and general medicine. Our footprint, and basically we know that the healthcare sector is changing. We need to explore more and collaborate more, and of course evolve with the ecosystem.
Anna Karasek. I'm a global director for our solution consulting business unit for commercial business. If you're new to Viva, actually 15 years ago, we were called like a startups and unicorn, right? A leading cloud software provider for life science industry. And for the last 15 years, innovation, customer success was really close to our heart. What we're really proud of years ago, it's going to be soon 2 years, we were also the first public company that decided to a public benefit corporation. So that was really important to us to make sure that we're going to balance our stakeholders, customers, and also the industry itself. So again, thank you for looking forward.
Well, I believe that you already heard about me a lot. So Lucas, Global Life Science Promotion Studio at Global. So I think that's okay. Yeah.
Very cool title for the panel today. As you can see, pharma is going digital. So I would like to ask you the question: what digital means to you, and how you're doing it in each of your company? With you?
Well, basically, digital is our way of living because at Globant we native companies, so we were born digitally. So it means everything for me and for my company. But I guess we are really in exciting moments. I believe that, in fact, in the pharma industry, that usually from the pharma industry, 17 years working there, former medical director for AVI in Region South that time. So to recall at that moment pre-pandemia that we were not talking so much about the kind of data, how to bring a patient. We heard about that. And also, I'm excited about this panel. I mean, digital could improve pharmaceutical industry in all the verticals. What else? Try to reinvent there's opportunities over there. So for me, it would be like the essence of our work. So that's it.
What about you and Viva?
Yeah, so I mean, similar that day. So from the very first day, that was really our objective, to create technology that will be embedded across different areas, starting from clinical, regulatory, safety, commercial, and really changing the way today pharma is operating. So it's really exciting to be part of that journey. Of course, we do that by providing the best solutions. There is no room for compromising on the quality and use, but at the same time, you have to make sure that when there is a need, there is a proper communication. So really, how we can get rid of some of those silos, how we can provide a better visibility, and how we can help somehow in that collaboration that hopefully, of course, gonna result in that we can deliver towards patients.
Sarah, what about GSK, our pharma representative in the
For me, digital is not only about technology. Shifting the same things that we are doing physically, or that we were doing physically, to another channel is, so for me, it's about culture and mindset. Digital is by connectivity, by data, because we have data, because we have connectivity, less process-oriented companies and more value created companies, we can evolve into a more open and more agile, because the results, and we can get the results of our actions, and of course, for me, something that you can have when you are using the technology and the connectivity that you have at hand, some value creation.
Julieta, but we fight and we.
For us, digital is the vehicle, the tool to reach patients. This is we reach patients. We work with patients at WeFight. We learn from them. We collect insights from, and yeah. So this would be the most important thing. It's not an end itself.
Okay, perfect. So I was mentioning it before, in the pharma have been evolving, like really adopting digital tools. And my question to you is, how pharma is evolving from your experience, and how is digital actually helping and making things possible with you?
Okay. I think that first answer, yeah, and we are becoming more digital. Probably the healthcare sector is becoming more digital than ever. Some other sectors started before than us. And I think that pharma is evolving into companies not only focus on treating the center. I think that the healthcare sector has been focused on treat sick people, and now we are much more focused on providing a health-related experience. It's not only about, it's about helping people to better prevent, detect, analyze, be aware of their, and of course, treat the disease if a disease appears, and monitor the disease and continue with your life with the less. So for that, we need to use all the technology, and that's why we are partnering with others, providing innovative therapeutic solutions on whatever we have to provide in order to allow. And I think that pharma is adapting to this new ecosystem at the same path as the whole sector is adapting. It's not only pharma. We cannot stress the sector at the same time that insurance, that healthcare providers, that payers, that healthcare organizations, that physicians, and
if I may. So, and I really, what we've seen from our was that, of course, during pandemic, everyone had to adopt, digital. That was almost like very often it was like an afterthought. And what happened often was like based on the old models. So as you mentioned, just converting paper to PDF. I mean, that's not journey. That's not the purpose. So, but that's often that was happening. Like, okay, we need to react right now. We had this old model. Let's just plug new tools on top of that. Right now, we see the tendency of somehow slowing down, taking the learnings, and really changing their operating model to see, like, on the stay, what we can do to make sure that we take the most of it. So it's also quite interesting with our customers.
Yeah. Maybe adding to both insight. When you see pharmaceutical area, pharmaceutical company, usually it was one of more regulated and difficult to work in the retail. Retail has a lot of more experience, and you are seeing now in pharmaceutical that they are starting to go through the digital driven, I believe, more open to create partnerships. For example, provide solutions that they are not so. There's not the core business of the pharmaceutical. This morning, someone mentioned about digital therapeutics, and you have seen digital therapeutics as one of the major areas. Pharma is even major brands like Pfizer, for example, joining psychics. So one of the points that it's good to see is the openness that the pharma classically nowadays is joining ventures, joining partnerships to try to understand better the product, the impact of the products, and the patients, for sure, the insight from them.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what we see at We Fight is, as mentioned already by Sarah, Pharma is patient-focused and treating patient in an holistic way. This means that the treatment portfolio is just a part of what now to the patients, and the digital therapeutics would be complement that will gain importance in what pharma is going to propose to the society. So for different purposes. So if we talk about, for example, maybe think of medical devices. They already exist for measuring glucose, education, or identifying uncontrolled patients. So not to patients, but to the whole society. So there are many, many things and ways that digital pharma to add value and to continue being impacting society.
Exactly. So we've seen like 2021 many collaboration between pharma company and startups. So evolving, changing, the business model changing. Like Lucas, you said you've been pharma before. Have you witnessed that evolution? How are things changing in terms of collaboration?
Yeah, I have seen that, and it's related mainly, well, maybe 2 or 3 things. The first one is try to understand better, that's collaborations with hospitals, with maybe digital unease startup that wants to understand a specific pain point in the people's journey, so So I have seen those collaborations, and that is a really sensitive, well, nowadays, but it's really sensitive when you have to recall or you have to have actions. It's not so easy, you cannot have, but just medical affairs, I believe. But things, I have seen that a lot. There are other ways, for example, to go in that are not so well known in pharma, like for example social media, try to understand better the footprints of things and so on. And third one, the engagement tools that usually were just a rep or MSL face to face, and nowadays the opportunities into the omnichannelity. So those kind of things I have seen partnerships nowadays are everywhere. So yeah, in engagement, in patient insights, and the data, like real world evidence and so on. I have seen mainly those partnerships.
And on the engagement side, which is, the sweet spot for us, the change was really drastical. Like before pandemic, there were some pilots happening during everyone had to go remote, and now really everyone right mix. What is the right proportion? And we can insights from different countries and regions, but it was Upshur-Smith company actually decided to take the approach and mandate somehow that 80% of all the engagements gonna happen and 20% in a still traditional mode, which was somehow reviewed as a standard. But what they found out is that this 20% in person and the 80% digital even stronger. So it's about how to keep that, how to make sure that information that is needed is there in the right time. So as the outcome of that change, they also decided to modify their approach to digital content. So strategy is now to go digital first. So create content for digital. Because it's digital, you can of course really easily monitor what's the effectiveness and then decide what should actually go to print, which is actually complete change model. So I think, a small example, but it was really effective and to see. But, their approach somehow is different to what we see as a say, but quite of a good insights as well.
In terms of business model, we are still in a exploration and discovery. We haven't discovered how to generate the most possible value, and of course we have to capture that value. Sometimes it's monetization, but sometimes it's not. We are exploring, and for that we need to partner with as many companies as we can, know more about possible future lines of the healthcare sector. And sometimes in the process of exploration and discovery, we also realize we are becoming somehow different companies. I was in the company mentioning that we have just launched and the first question that we had was GSK, so a biopharma, able to provide 5G capture organizations in order to equip the possibility to create training for everyone all over the world? Yes. Do you use pharma? Maybe not. So in this exploration and discovering that the business model maybe is different. Again, we are learning, we are trying, and we need some time also to adjust.
Yes, so from my perspective and as a startup, it's true that perfect partners with pharma, because from one side capable of doing things maybe a pharma company cannot. For example, we can help big structures on that, as we complement with this more agile structures as being small. And anyway, we are not only doing a B partnership, but we are in of digital, and maybe of our projects is we collaborate with the whole ecosystem. It's very important to have this feedback from every single play ecosystem to be sure that we really address the good needs.
Exactly. Now I would like to address a bit the change of engagement like the pharma could have with the patient, or if I think back at the beginning of the pandemic, the couldn't go and see the doctors anymore, right? Everybody was at home. It's like, oh my God, like, what are we doing? How are we talking to doctors? So maybe that's an example of our change, and maybe Sarah, you can, the others, you have example of how digital actually been helping to those relationships, both with patients and the other providers in the ecosystem.
For me, that's a great example of how the digital mindset, the digital culture, to adapt ourselves and to adjust what we have to do in order to provide value, communicate evidence. Of course, with the COVID-19 started, so we have to do it because we have a responsibility with physicians and with the patients too. So we had to adjust all in order to be able to do that. And a lot of, but I think that in this new way of engagement, I can provide more insights about this. We are no longer competing with the traditional competitors. We were in the leaflet era when the sales rep was there, materials, physical marketing materials, you were competing with other materials. Now, if you are sending webinar invites, paper, you are in the same inbox that the telecom operator invoice or the Netflix weekly email with the recommendations. So, and we are competing for the attention. So our competitors are there. Are not the other biopharma that are providing marketing materials. Our competitor is one able to communicate in the same moment with the patient associations, scientific societies, whatever. So we more meaningful. So we have to provide more content, so we can get that span of other to generate the value that we had to provide the evidence and to comprehend.
Exactly. So I was thinking, so Lucas, you talk about G4. So for those of you not familiar with digital therapeutics, it's a subcategory of and they are, so I define them as apps or software that can replace or complement a treatment. They are apps for patients, clinically validated, both in clinical evidence, and they're here to treat, prevent, or manage a disease. Collaboration between pharma companies and startups. But the thing is that you don't sell a software the same way you sell a drug. So I don't know if you had that experience at Global.
Well, I do have the experience. At Global we do have the experience of terms of capabilities, quality, designing of the software, and so on. We partner with clients to do that. To have the experience of being treated or providing that. The digital therapeutics market is one of those places that personally, but I have seen that a few years ago while I was at the pharmaceutical company and being with a physician software for treating patients. What's that? And nowadays you see a lot of reports of clinical trials that already with evidence-based, they have shown 2 months more overall survival in cancer together. So the thing is that it's not a question. We don't have an answer to how it's going to be all the business models. But what we are as maybe as Julita mentioned, so it's going to be a lowly, for example, lowly distribution with a product that at the end will bring more value to the patient for the company and brings data. So I'm expecting to see those partnerships because it's good for everyone to see the results. But already they have strong, impressive. Yeah.
I think the challenge that we already raised during the pandemic was also, in addition to, how to make sure that the scientific distributed was run clinical trials. Like, how can we ensure that, and that was really critical for us working with our, to really understand how we can help sites and how we can help patients in clinical trials. So I think, definitely, but there is still so many different opportunities that we can really employ and really working together. So, but I think in addition, the phase, that was also something that was really important.
For trials?
So supporting our customers in decentralized, really helping sites. The challenge with the sites was like too many different systems that they were working on, and still to out additional trainings or making it simpler for them. So we at the beginning of that journey, but also the pandemic was definitely a big milestone in that one.
Julita, do you want to add something?
Only regarding digital therapeutics that I think that they are super interesting in complement with what actually pharma sells, so pills, treatments. The digital complement can make the big difference. So I think it's very interesting to explore alternatives on this sense.
So there's also, when we talk about digitalization, I think data is a key word, and I know that at Viva, that's one of your specialties, especially for you, Anna. So maybe you can share a bit, look, how important it is, and maybe some trends that you've seen those past years coming from data.
Yeah, and I think, again, data is important because it allows us to get better and to learn. And see some best practices as well. So currently we have visibility into around 80% of all the interactions that are happening between pharma and HCP. So I think that's a good, it's a pretty good starting point. Definitely everyone right now is thinking about what's the right mix with different channels. We definitely seen that adoption for remote engagements, they're going to stay. But how to really balance between the traditional in digital, that's something that we're discussing with customers. And looking at the macro, there is already a big difference between US and Europe. Actually, Europe, based on our latest data, is getting better. It's even more digital than it is in the US, with the proportion of like 60-40. And Spain is a really strong player in this area. So in terms of using channels like email, using channels like remote, they are really strong. They are definitely leading in the overall number of touch points with doctors, meaning that they are really close to them, much closer than it is in other countries. Well, UK, they still have restrictions to actually be able to access. So but comparing even to Italy and France, Spain is definitely the strongest in terms of the number of touch points, is strong in the results that they are getting from digital engagements. The overall proportion is also growing, so it's interesting to see, but it's definitely in the numbers of like open rates, it's really leading in the market of using digital assets during the visits is definitely leading. The duration of the remote engagements, that's something probably that could be better, but it might be related, and that's what we've discussed with some of our customers, with actually training of the users, how to do that, because, you know, it's very different to have a 3-4 minutes, it's very different to have a 12-20 minutes conversation, and something that we are seeing, those remote engagements are 3 times longer, if not even more. So it's a very different training and preparation for the sales reps, for the medical representative, but also, you know, from a content perspective, how to make sure that you do have the right message and content to deliver during that time.
Yeah, maybe I was thinking about you Sarah mentions about the culture, because the data is there, right? More channels, more insights, more try to understand our customers, our pharma customer, patients, and so on. But still, I guess that recall at that time that we have a lot of data. For example, that this medical content is not longer any more interest because a physician stay maybe 2 minutes here, but then 10 minutes in other thing. If you have a culture that you are reviewing the metrics every quarter, it's, hey, why do you have all the data? You have to change. And that's other ways that the pharma industry, I believe, is changing. Classic model, more quickly, more agile organizations also. You mentioned that, Julieta, it's changing a lot. So impact, big impact. Not also not only in the data itself, but in the culture of the business model and the company. So.
Sarah, so we know data are very important for pharma. We talk about data lake.
We wish. But I always hear in every sector the data is a fool. But I think that we need to ask two previous questions before having the fool. Fool for what? So where do we want to go? And which fool? Because we have thousands, millions of data in so many places that cannot talk to each other. And sometimes they are not relevant. So yes, we have data, and we are data-driven sometimes, or data-focused some of the time, but we don't have the data to answer most of the questions we are asking ourselves. For example, are we providing the value with the therapies that are in the market that we want to provide? What are the outcomes in the hospital where they are delivering a specific procedure? Is the patient more happy, or are the outcomes that the patient expect from a healthcare organization better without a specific intervention? We don't have the data. So we have the hemoglobin, we have how many times do you have an ECG, but that's not relevant to ask. Some of the questions we need to ask ourselves to change the healthcare value proposition to be more patient focused. So yes, we have data, and data is critical for us. And apart from that, two questions, I think that pharma, we need it. So for us, it's basic. We need to understand how our drugs are performing before launching into the market, but also to understand how are they performing in a real life setting, and how we can, again, generate more value. This is about value. How can my drug with hair digital therapeutics and a hair channel and his idea can provide more value for the patient, and we can start boosting the changes we would like to see in the sector.
So do you think we don't have those data, or they are not like a good quality enough? That's a question for everybody. Where are we now in terms of data in healthcare?
My view, we have thousands, millions of data, but we don't have the interoperability needed to operate with those data. We don't have the quality and the cleanliness needed to operate with those data. We don't have the harmonization, because the why, the questions that data for what, why, which data, how we should collect the data, some of the questions that we are now asking ourselves were not asked before. So we were collecting data for years, and now we are asking questions that needs a different approach to collect data.
So listening to Sarah, that made me also think that it's also important qualitative data about especially patients.
Yeah.
And these first questions that pharma needs to make themselves is what we are doing to pharma, because it's so important firstly to understand the objective of collection of data in order to really fulfill this project, or to use the data for something which is productive. So in our project in WeFight, what we are able is to collect this patient voice in order to so that digital is going to help us collect data regarding unmet needs of patients, or how my product is tolerated, why the patient drivers, why this patient is not doing this thing, or what has to happen so the patient behaves differently. So I think that's super interesting insights too, because at the end what we want is like to improve patients' life. This is the absolute objective. So I think that data will help us, but qualitative data especially.
Mm-hmm.
No, I totally agree. I think we do have a lot of data out there, and I think it's about, what is important for who, making sure that it's delivered on the right time, in the way that it's going to be also understandable, because sometimes you can really just overthink what you're really looking for. So I think, and this one is probably the most challenging one, right? It's like, how can we make sure we stay focused, and we learned from that, and and we were able to adapt what information is needed for what team. But for that we need that foundation, and I think going back as a more from a technical side, is really important to think about that data architecture that's gonna make it possible. But you need somehow the foundation, but align with your business process as well, and the needs of your business. So I think it is quite complex, and indeed that's definitely the trend of how we can use data that we have. Because to your point, I think there is a lot already.
Yeah, well, I do not have nothing to add. Just maybe because you all said all the major, all the basic things, or all the important things. I guess that at the end, it's good. It's good to see that there's new channels, there's new sources, there's becoming more popular the wearables and the things, and try to connect that with the health decision has a lot to be with behavioral science. It's how we make decisions, how we choose, for example, drink alcohol versus other things, how we choose to smoke or not, and why. And all those data we have, I believe it is a desire, but I guess that is, we all try to solve that. How we help people to understand their decisions better, and the ecosystem that they make the decision. People is not adherent to a medication chronic because they want to bomb, because they have other things there. They have, maybe they're going to take a pill, and no, something happened, they have a Netflix show that you have to see, or a football match, or playing Barcelona, what else? Messi, for example. But we need to understand better that, and it's good that we are in that direction. So.
Exactly. Okay. So now for my last question, I want us to look at the future. So imagine 3 years from now, we're back here all together, and we talk about the situation. Pharma is going digital, pharma is digital 3 years from now. And in addition, I'm giving you a magic wand, and you can erase the blockers. So I want you to tell me, how do you envision pharma, digitalization of pharma 3 years from now, and what are those blockers that the magic wand is helping you to erase?
Who wants to start?
You're still on me, so I have the first. Well, luckily me. No, I guess that one of the blockers could be a status quo. I would like to delete that. Okay. Let's take some risk. Of course, that risk under some framework that do not generate harm or unsafety things or privacy issues and so on. But the status quo would be something that I would delete it. Just let's bring some risk.
And how do you imagine digitalization of pharma 3 years from now? What would it look like?
More ecosystem for sure, more pharmaceutical industry, more pharmaceutical logos, open their voices, connecting more with patients in a safest way, with a good purpose and outcomes. more in related to the design of, for example, clinical trials with their outcomes, important outcomes for them, not just for the data on the efficacy of the product, but for what people believes and what's important for them. I imagine that, well, more pharmas putting money in these kind of events, for sure. That's something that I would like to see. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think for the, on the clinical side, I think that's, if there is a way to really connect sponsor CROs, the patient sides, and making them, working together, I think that would just help us so much. I think that would be a really dream, like, easy way to join clinical trials, easy way to find them, easy way to, to communicate the results. I think, that's something that I think we still have, a lot to do. And I think on the commercial side, I would also see, this kind of a pull channel really making it happen, like bi-directional communication. It's not me, sales rep trying to find someone, but it's like, hey, if you need me, there is an easy way for a doctor, not going maybe to 500 different portals, but saying like there is an easy way to actually communicate and get the information I need at this specific point. So I think what we need is probably that, looking at those silos and working together to see how we can probably just get rid of them. But I hope with 5 years we're going to be okay. Let's see.
I hope to. Sarah?
I would like to be optimistic. So this is a path. And we are evolving at the same time that the sector is evolving. So I think that we are going to be more digital, considering that digital is not about technology, it's about mindset. I'm going to be really optimistic right now. I expect the European health data space to be launched, and new regulations about clinical trials that are trying to boost decentralization and the use of new data sources, so we can become even more digital and provide accessible treatments and value and therapeutics no matter where the patient is and no matter where the physician is. And I think that what we can expect is that the speed is going to be an increase on the speed. Not so much. It's for those who are involved in this type of partnership with the startups and with the public sector, launching a project is sometimes a headache. It can take, you can mention an amount of months and it's going to be double probably. But I think that we are going to lower to decrease that numbers and to be a critical part in that mindset change in the healthcare sector.
So what I think would be the future of pharma in digital, I think that digital would be an unseparately part of the product portfolio of the pharma value proposition. Digital will be, no matter what, inside this proposition. So we have a part from a pill, but also a digital tool inside this proposition, this value proposition. And if I had a magic wand for that, I would say that I would like to see projects on prevention. So this means projects that will enable easy identification or early diagnosis of patients.
Perfect. Okay. So guys, I see you in 3 years at the VHS Summit, and we see where we are. So thank you so much for this panel, for these insights. Anna, people, back at you.
Thank you very much. So we'll keep on going. Yeah, you can hear them.